24th meeting 2010 of the Single Family Design Board. Happy New Year to everybody. Will you call the roll, please?
Bernstein? Here. Carroll? Here. Geisler?
Here.
Mosel?
Here.
Woolery? Here. Zink?
Here.
Mahan?
Here. Thank you. Okay, first item on the business is the election of officers. That'd be chair and vice chair. I want to say that it's been a great pleasure and privilege to act as your chair for 2.5 years and to see this board mature. And as a matter of fact, I was in Ralph's on Saturday, and a stranger came up to me and said, "I watch Single Family Design Board all the time. You guys are wonderful." So that's very pleasing to get that. That's very good. Anyway, I will not be standing for election. My term is up in the end of June, and I don't plan to serve another term. So I will entertain a nomination for chair. Yes, I have a hand up here.
I nominate Glenn Geisler.
Okay, Glenn is nominated for chair. Gary, do you have a nomination?
Yes, I would like to nominate Paul Zink.
Okay, Paul is nominated. Are there any other nominations? Well, let's have a motion to close nominations then. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to close nominations for the chair.
Okay.
All right.
I move. I so move.
Okay, all in favor of that? Everybody, okay. All right, let's how shall we do this?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I could give you all slips of paper and we can do a written
You want to
vote.
do an Australian ballot? Okay.
For vice chair. We do both now.
Oh, you want to pick them up?
So these are, you can write down your choice for chair, and then we'll do this again for vice chair.
Yeah.
If we have more than one nominee for vice chair, we'll do it on paper. If we only have one nominee, then we'll
Why
just
don't
do a voice vote.
we tally these up, and then we'll see who the chair is, and then I'll do vice chair. Then I'll step aside.
Okay, we had 4 votes for Paul Zink and 3 for Glenn Deisler. So Paul Zink will be chair for this year.
Congratulations, Paul. Okay, let's have a nomination for vice chair. There's a nomination for vice chair. Yes. Pardon me. Glenn for vice chair. Is there any other nomination?
Oh, well, there you go.
Okay, as an outgoing chair, I will then just close the nominations, and I think we will elect you by acclamation. Is that okay with everybody? Okay, Glenn is vice chair. Once again, thank you all.
Want to change chairs?
Well, I think so. Yes, somebody has to move. Glenn, I think you should go there. Yeah, you always go to the left. The left hand of God, as they say.
I thought it was the right hand.
Oh, what's that? No, that is for the real
A
one.
lightning bolt would hit me if I went to church.
Well, thank you, Paul. Next order of business is appointments to the subcommittee.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would love to serve on that.
Okay. First of all, do we need any update from the staff?
Well, this is we only need one subcommittee right now, and that is to create some new guidelines, some new SFDB guidelines. Remember, we were talking about guidelines for uncovered parking and possible design review changes due to our budget constraints. Perhaps figuring out which projects would not need design review or which projects could be reviewed by staff. and guidelines regarding basements and FARs. subdivision reviews, using the FAR 20 closest study, and also implementing FARs as guidelines on lots, taking into account buildable area like oceanfront bluff-top lots and lots that have creeks or adjacent to creeks, etc. So we had a list of guidelines that need to be developed and improved, so that's what the subcommittee would be working on. And we need a maximum of 3 members because the subcommittee should be less than a quorum.
Okay. So it'd be best if I guess to find out who wants to volunteer first and then open the floor for nominations. And then if there are more than 3 people, then we'll do a vote.
Okay.
So Bill Mahan volunteers, Bernie volunteers. Are there any other volunteers? And Gary? Are there anybody else who wants to volunteer? Okay, with that, we will... I wasn't going to volunteer. I was actually going to recommend or ask Glenn to be on it, but you didn't really raise your hand, so I don't want to push this extra burden on you unless you're willing to take it on.
The consent calendar, does that have any new appointments to it, or is that something that I'll be obligated to do?
It actually should be changed and rotated. It would be valid. Because would that have a bearing on whether or not you would step up to this committee? So...
Another note on the subcommittee, what we had in mind was probably 2 meetings of about 2 hours each in late January and early February, meeting with staff.
Okay.
I'll be fine with that.
You'd be fine with that?
Yeah.
I'd like to nominate Glenn to be on there. So we've got 4 people, Gary, Glenn, Bill, and Bernie, to be on that committee. And,
Wait, we need less than 4.
well, that's why we'll have to do a vote.
Oh, to eliminate someone?
On 4.
Oh. Okay.
To be blunt, yes. Does that sound reasonable, or is that, should we...
How are you going to do that?
All right, now,
I can retract my name.
okay, then let's retract Glenn's name. We have 3 people that volunteered for the meetings, and that'd be Bill and Bernie and Gary. And now those will be at the subcommittee, and then at the next meeting, you make reports until you're finally finished.
Okay, what about consent calendar?
Moving on to consent calendar.
I mean, as far as who's going to be reviewing the consent calendar.
Ask for volunteers.
Mr. Chair, if I
Yes.
make a recommendation or on the Architectural Board of Review, we do a rotation every 3 months or every 4 months we do a rotation. And usually we have 2 consent representatives, and they rotate. So that would be my suggestion, that we have 2 representatives and rotate on a 4-month period.
Every 3 months.
Every 4 months.
I guess I was going to actually
Or every 3 months.
ask if Gary and Bill would be interested in doing that as a shared task, and then using Glenn as the alternate for when the 2 of you can't make it. And when you step down, we'll find somebody else to fill in that spot for the rest of the year. Okay? So for the reviewing of the architectural side, it'll be Bill and Gary on a rotation schedule, with Glenn serving as an alternate as a backup.
Okay.
Okay?
And keep in mind that while the T-Fire projects have been going on, consent calendar's been a pretty big time commitment. It's every Monday at 11, and we're usually here until 12:30 or 1.
Well, at times you could actually pull 2 or actually pull in Glenn, or you actually did call me a couple times and I came in. So between the 4 of us, there's enough people, but it actually frees up Glenn's time, because I really, when I was vice chair, I wasn't doing it all the time as the consent person.
Okay. And how about the
As far as
Landscaping is
landscape,
next.
Can Denise and I rotate as well, or
I was going to make her the primary and ask you to be her alternate. If that's all right with the volunteer. Okay, and you guys can figure out a rotation schedule and work it out with Tony.
Okay, so if we have quite a few, then just be Gary and I will do it together. And you'll let us know on that, Tony.
The way I understand it, you'll be alternating, perhaps like 3
Yeah, but if
months
there's
at
a lot of
time?
them, if there's a lot of them, then we can do it together.
Right.
Yeah, and if there's too much for the two of them, or if one of them can't make it, call Glenn, call me, and somebody will be there.
Okay. But if we only need one reviewer, do you want to alternate every 3 months? It's good if there's some continuity.
Yeah,
From week to week.
that's good, but I would rather go for 3 months than 4 months because I only have 6 months to go.
Okay.
3 months is good. So that takes care of the consent calendar, or consent reviewers. Is there any other business we have to deal before public comments? If not, I will open the mics for public comment, anything that's not on today's agenda. Seeing nobody, I'll close that. Oh, appointment to subcommittees. Well, that's funny.
Yeah, we're
So
a
now
little
we'll
bit
move to
redundant
item
with that.
E.
We've already done that.
Approval of the minutes for December 7th. Do I have a motion? We have a first by Glenn and a second by Gary. Any comments on the minutes from December 7th? I actually reviewed them and didn't find an issue. There was only 2 items on the agenda. So if no one has any comments, I'll close and go to a vote. All in favor of the minutes as presented? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving to the consent calendar for December 14th.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. On consent for December 14th, we had item A, 444 Los Alturas Road was postponed. Item B, 241 Conejo Road got preliminary approval. Item C, 2108 Gibraltar Road got preliminary approval of the architecture. Item D, 1325 West Mountain Drive got final approval of the architecture. Item E, 900 Los Alturas Road got final approval. So that was final approval of landscaping. Item F, 306 Sherman Road got preliminary approval of the architecture. Was continued for landscape plan. Item G, 1131 Del Sol Avenue got final approval with conditions. Item H, 1978 Las Canoas Road got final approval as submitted. Item I, 1435 Kenwood Road was continued 3 weeks. Item J, 581 Los Alturas Road got final approval with conditions on the architecture and landscaping. Item K, 1600 West Mountain Drive. That was the book house. Got final approval as submitted of the architecture, and the landscaping was continued 3 weeks. Item L, also 1600 West Mountain Drive. That was the house that was burned in the T-fire. That got preliminary approval of the architecture. Item M, 805 Miramonte Drive got final approval. Item N, 10 Eland Place got final approval as submitted of the architecture and was continued for landscaping. And consent on December 14th was reviewed by, items B, D, F, L, M, and N were reviewed by Glenn Deisler. Items C, G, H, I, J, K, L were reviewed by Paul Zink. And landscaping for items B, E, F, G, J, and N were reviewed by Aaron Carroll. So we need a motion and
Okay.
a second to...
We motion to approve the consent calendar. Second. Second by Bernie. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Let's move to the consent calendar for January 4th.
All right, consent calendar for today, January 4th, we had item A, 900 Los Alturas Road, got final approval as submitted. And item B, 1600 West Mountain Drive, that was the book house again, got final approval of the landscaping as submitted. And that was it for consent today.
Okay. Do I have a
that was reviewed by Glenn Deisler and Aaron Carroll.
Do I have a motion for the consent calendar? Aaron, second by? Second by Bill. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We will move on to announcements, item G.
I don't have any announcements, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Item H is subcommittee reports, and we don't have any at this moment. So we'll move on to our first item of the agenda, which is 2010 Emerson Avenue. And we've already seen this project, but it's been renoticed for a couple of changes. It's a continued concept review of the roof. Comments are requested regarding proposed parking in the front setback and roof alterations. Project requires environmental assessment and staff officer approval of the mod. And before you start, let's get the minutes of the previous meeting. Okay. And that's going to be your job.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The comments from the previous meeting were the modifications for the roof overhang encroachment and solar access are minor and pose no negative architectural impacts. The board was split on a 3-3 vote as to the support of the parking in the required front yard. Number 3, hip dormers are preferred. Number 4, determine the designated street tree or retain the coral tree. Number 5, provide embellishment at front elevation and show all final details on plans.
Okay. If I have your, oops, where's that oval? Perfect. Your name for the record and your presentation.
Mark Mirando, agent for the owner.
I'm Brad Simon, the owner.
Okay.
Well, basically, the last time that we showed up, we had talked about some parking in the front yard, which required a modification. And since originally, at the beginning of November, when this project came in, when Bill wasn't here, there was only 2 mods proposed. One was the solar for the dormer, and the other was for this small encroachment right here as the new gable was pulled forward up the hip. But Jaime Limon, design review supervisor, asked us to come back today on a technicality to have this parking in the front yard agendized, basically, because it wasn't agendized on the previous one.
Okay.
So that's why we're here instead of going straight to the modification hearing officer.
And as I remember, the board asked for some more information about parking in the neighborhood. I've taken photographs of all the parking in the neighborhood and my driveway and such.
Okay.
And so on this first sheet, we didn't do everything that you had said, but we did remove the little hip that was here and bring it straight up to the cross gable on the roof plan. You can see it here and there. And then we also did remove, showing that this the roof deck that pops out the hip in the back is to be removed. And then the shaded areas are the areas of the dormers that are new floor area greater than 5 feet in height. And then the elevations are the same elevations that you saw last time, except instead of this little portion here that came up like this, we got rid of that and pulled the hip all the way up as you had suggested. Other than that, we're fundamentally here just to talk about the parking in the front yard and get any ideas that you might have. I did contact Parks and Rec, but they didn't know what the street tree was for that area, so we have to pull a permit and then have them figure it out. So that'll take a little bit more time.
So as of right now, what's the status of the tree that's in this location?
Tree.
Brad has some really good photographs, studies that he did. This is basically what the coral tree in the front yard looks like. And you can see the historic planter here from the front and the city curb. So there's 5 feet 6 from the outside of curb, which is city right-of-way, which is basically where this stone historic planter is. You can see how the coral tree has impacted it over time.
It just seems like it's getting too big for that planter. You can see here where the trunk is just destroying this wall. I can't see good upside down, but this is also this wall starting to lean into the sidewalk area. It's just basically destroying the planter.
So your suggestion right now is to remove this coral tree and replace it with a tree per city.
Guidelines and other landscaping in there that would be appropriate scale. This just seems like the scale is getting...
Okay. And then you wanted to talk about the parking in the neighborhood up and down the street?
Pardon the size here. So I went and photographed all the parking in this block here. And if we just start here, this has a 2-car uncovered in the front yard setback, in the side yard setback. Next house out of the street does have 3 garages. I've seen a car in this garage, never seen a car in this garage. I often see 3 cars parked across here, and this includes the sidewalk here. This house does have 2 covered parking spaces up this driveway past the gate. This house here just was in a December, they're going through the architectural board review. They're getting a mod to rebuild and enlarge and put a roof deck on this garage, rebuild this storage shed, and have an uncovered parking here. And they did receive mods for all that. The next neighbor up has an on-street garage. I've seen a moped in there. There's not room for a car in there. The other problem is you pull up, you got to get out of your car, open the doors, pull your car in, close them. You can never have an electric opener there because there's no other access out of the garage. Here's my immediate neighbor downhill I share the driveway with. They do have 2 spaces, one in the garage and one in the back of the lot that's very close to the front yard in the back of the lot. My house is here. My neighbor going uphill is this house here. Garages are never used, they're full. 2 cars parking in the front yard. This lovely house here, never seen a car in there. Cars parked in front of the driveway, basically. This car here, up there, they parked 2 cars there. The garage have stuff in. I mean, bottom line, these houses are relatively small. There's no storage. People fill up the garages.
Okay.
Going back down this street, here's Roosevelt School. They have eliminated all parking along here. This neighbor here has 2 garages doors. I've never seen these open, and it looks like they're starting to make habitable living space out of those. Never seen any cars parked off street. My neighbor directly across the street has a garage. It's full of stuff. I've never seen a car parked in the garage. The car is always parked in the front yard setback there. Going to this house on the corner of Montgomery and Emerson. Used to be a single-family dwelling. I believe it's multifamily now. Absolutely no off-street parking. There's no opportunity for off-street parking. In this house here, the last house on, let me get my orientation here. Emerson here on this 40 by 60 lot. There are 3, I think there are actually 4 units. They park all head in off the street. The curb cut goes the full width of the property. So I think, given that I do have some screening, and it works within the wall that, I don't know, we haven't seen the other photos, that my proposed parking, or actually I want to call it historical use of that parking space,
Okay.
which is people have been parking horses and carriages and cars there since 1886.
Okay.
My feeling is an appropriate use of that for space. And it's also, we can look at the plans for a minute. Yes, my parking is close to the street, but it's not like my parking is right next to the house. I have another 15 to 20 feet between where that parking is to where the house starts. And so it's not like it's bundled right on top of the street.
Okay.
And this wall that comes down here.
I think we understand
Okay.
where we're at. So, and you don't have any other revised drawings with the details. You'll get to that at a later date.
Right.
I figured
Okay.
get the mods first.
That's fine. Just making sure. So with that,
I actually had one
okay.
request that sort of, and it just came to me after having lived upstairs for a while, is there any possibility for support for a little flat roof that would go across here?
Is it in the front yard setback?
No. It's
Let's just talk about that at a later date.
It's right back, way back in here.
We'll get to that later.
Okay.
So with that, I'll close that and open up public comment. Are there any public speakers on this item?
We don't have any speaker slips, but we did have a a letter in opposition from Paula Westbury.
Okay. And Tony, does staff have any comments about this project?
No, the project's here for your comments on the mod requests and also a review of the revised architecture.
Okay. At this point, there's not revised architecture per se, except for the roof plan. That's the only item that was altered. So with that, I'll close public comment, and I'll bring it back to the board for questions.
One quick question.
Yes, Bernie?
Thank you, and thank you for bringing all those photos in. I'm worried about the tree, and I'm wondering if there's an alternate way to deal with having a healthy, beautiful tree maybe trimmed as an alternative to chopping the whole thing down.
I'll let you answer that.
The base of the roots is just getting so large that it's larger than the container that it's in and it's bursting at the seams. Now, to me, it would be a regular maintenance issue to go back there and trim that root ball and base of the root back. We can get a nice tree in there. I think, and having lived there, that tree is too big and as an effort to keep it in a size that I can see over the top of to take my view, so it doesn't take my view away.
Any other questions?
I have a question. Is it possible for you to park in your rear yard?
We did a little study on that as well.
As we come up the driveway, it's fairly not too steep here. It gets pretty steep here. I'm going to guess about 20% old driveway. Here is the front yard setback. This lot does go from Cleveland to Emerson to Cleveland, so I have two front yards. So looking sideways, there's possibility of one spot here, but the only problem there is you have to back down a driveway. It's about 150 feet, and I'm getting old, and my neck is quite sore from 30 years of being a fireman.
Can we look at the plan?
Sure. And this is Cleveland Street up here, and this is Emerson at the bottom, and it's a through lot.
So this spot right,
So
This-
you
this
couldn't pull
board.
in here and do a hammerhead kind of a thing? Why? How wide is this
Well,
lot?
this here is pretty steep right into here, and there's one spot like back here where there used to be an old lath house, and the spot that you're looking at is somewhere right in this area that he's showing you.
This
right.
2x4 thing?
Yeah.
well, that 2x4 is
Well-
that property line right there.
You mean the setback?
Setback, excuse me.
Yeah, when you're looking right here, you can see that would be that area. Across there would be this area.
What's this in here?
Street. Excuse me, that's my property, but that's in the front yard
front yard
setback.
That's your
Setback.
front yard setback.
Yeah.
So this is beyond the front yard setback.
Right.
Correct.
It's the remaining front yard,
And
technically.
this is fairly level.
No, it's sloping
it's
down,
sloping down.
all the way down.
But I mean, it could be graded and a little wall could be put in there. It could be leveled. It's a question.
Considerable expense, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Just
Gary?
segueing off that same comment, is it possible to have a garage and enter off of Cleveland?
The grade where my lot ends about right there, it's about 6 feet up to Cleveland. At one time, I could bring pictures, and next time I had a common grade where I could have driven out my driveway onto Cleveland. And sometime in between my house was built and my driveway was made, the city decided to fill that in. So I can no longer exit from my driveway to Cleveland.
Okay. Any other questions? Aaron?
City arborist look at that coral tree?
I have not yet, no.
Okay. I'll move to comments from the board members.
And then we have dead air.
Okay, Gary?
First off, on the roof plan, and does say we're looking at the roof alterations. The first roof plan doesn't show hips on the dormers.
No,
Can I point that out to you real fast?
right here.
Over here, you have this as a hip.
Right. Yeah.
So then over here, these should be drawn as a 45.
Right.
It's just
yeah.
inadvertent error.
That's fine.
So you got that, and that's on both of them. Secondly, I'd like to talk about the tree. I think that the tree is. I really like the coral tree that's there. I really would hate to see the tree go away. And if it was to go away, it would make a car parked in front of there even worse. If there was a car there, then it wouldn't block that car. And just showing those photographs of other cars illegally parked in front of their driveways doesn't really make me want to approve this. And usually on a modification or situation, we want to do something where it's a hardship case where there's no other opportunity for parking. But wow, you got lots of opportunities. You've got an easement with a driveway all the way up. You've got Cleveland on the opposite side of the street. And I'm visualizing this property. I don't see a hardship that you need to park in that front yard. So me, for one, I would not be in favor of this driveway. I would much rather see landscaping in it.
Mr. Carroll?
Okay, Bill?
I agree with that. I think the rule is for modifications, if you can do it some other way, don't ask for the modification. And I do believe in this huge backyard there is a way to put a parking stall or 2 parking stalls and I drove along the street and looked at all of the pictures that you showed us, and those were very truthful pictures. I don't think adding another car to that street is beneficial to the neighborhood. And I think if there's a way to get a car off of the street, we ought to try to encourage that. So I couldn't support the modification for the front yard parking area either. I think with the tree, I'm a little more in the middle of the road. I would like to ask our landscape architects about the coral tree has buttressing roots.
Well, my comment was going to be that he'll have to remove it, he'd have to get approval from the city arborist anyways, Tim Downey, I believe. So he should have Tim look at the tree and see what he thinks. I think it's a significant tree. If it had to go, it should be replaced with a decent size tree.
So I'm sort of mixed on the tree, but I can't support the parking in front. Thank you, Mr.
Denise?
Mr. Chair, I think that as I looked at the pictures of the planter around the tree, that you could easily rebuild the planter, root trim, and put down a root barrier, and you'd be fine keeping the tree. Also, coral trees take rather nicely to being cut, and they should be cut out because they're brittle in the wind, so that you could keep your view corridor by kind of trimming out and making it shaped more like this, on the canopy. So I think you could have that, you could still have your view. The stone looks like it has to be rebuilt at any rate, and you would have to do that even if you were approved to do this driveway in the front. It's not existing, correct, this?
It's AC paving at this time.
Oh, it is.
Right.
It is existing. I also think there's an alternative way to park the car, and I can't see all the paving in the front myself. I wouldn't be able to support the mod, I'm afraid, either.
Okay, that's fine. Any other comments? You mean you don't have to comment if you agree with what's already been said?
There it is. Mr. Chair, I saw that the previous meeting had a 3-3 tie on
Correct.
support. And that's kind of, I wanted to chime in. And given some sort of newer information about the second street on the rear of the property and the ability to create parking from that street, I believe I was one of the board members that probably could support it, and I'm not sure I can support that modification request to park in the front anymore.
Okay. Brady, do you have anything? I'll just jump in to say that I actually was the one who actually thought of the idea or pushed you down this road, and I apologize, but I actually, from my perspective as an architect, as I see this as a suitable, okay use, and I might be the only one on the board saying this, but I want to say it has to be done in a historical, charming fashion, and the tree needs to be saved, and the stone wall needs to be rebuilt, and there has to be some honor and respect towards the structure there. And I'm only coming back from the point that the house was there from the 1800s, and this is how it's been used. If it's been abused over time and it starts to look really ugly, I don't see it as a garage. I see it as temporary parking or just a way of getting around for people to visit. It is not a garage. And so it's a technicality with the city staff and the mod officer, and let them all handle it. I do believe for your own property value, a two-car garage in the back with ample storage is a worthy investment on this property.
If I don't have the money, I'll
That's
pay for it.
fine, but I can just say that I mean, I can understand the complexities because I've worked on projects of similar nature, whether you elevate the garage floor by 6 feet or you have to do a 4-foot retaining wall to get your hammerhead. It is possible to create other parking on the property that would cover your car, and this was never intended to be an actual parking space more than, well, it's a temporary parking space. It's not a permanent, this is where I'm going to leave my cars and that I don't drive and that kind of stuff. You wouldn't pile moving boxes there for a long period of time. So I still want to agree with my previous meeting, or what I said previously, is that historically I think there's reference to having this there, but being done in a nice, charming way. It's a technicality from my perspective, but I'm not going to be the person making that decision. And I can see how it works architecturally, but a two-car garage in the back of the property is feasible, and it's not, from, I would say, a hardship. So I would say, since the purpose of this meeting was just to get our comments, to have it agendized, and then take a vote, and then move on to the staff hearing officer. So with that, is there anyone who wants to...
Can I make a couple of comments?
I think we're kind of done, because we're very familiar with this project because it's been here.
I have neighbors down the street who have their whole front of their lot concreted. I mean, isn't there something about neighborhood compatibility or similarly in the
But see, they have a permit that was built at another time as well. You know what? I don't need to go there. That's with the staff hearing officer for conversation. Our point is here that this property does not have a permit to park vehicles in the front yard setback, and that's what you're establishing. And so we were asked to give our comments for the staff hearing officer.
Right.
Mr. Mahan?
I'll make a motion to continue this to the staff hearing officer for her review with but without a recommendation for parking in the front yard. Was there any other mods that you were asking for beside that?
There was the comment having to
Oh,
do...
yeah, and that we do recommend permitting the solar shadow from the dormer. So that would be a mod for the solar, to the solar ordinance, and then there's some kind of a little thing here, right? It's
Right.
over the
existing
property
hip.
line, and we find that acceptable also. We would recommend that would be approved. So there'd be two things that we would recommend to be approved, and parking in the front yard not to be approved.
Okay, is there a second for that motion? We have a tie? All right, it'll be Aaron. Okay, is there any more discussion from the board on this motion?
Just, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
On the sheet here, it says, and roof alterations, do we need to address that? Or
That
we
was the
did?
doohickey thing that Mr. Mahan referred to in the
Oh,
front
okay,
corner.
so we did address that. Okay, thank you.
Mr.
Yeah. What? The tree?
The tree? Gary, you go, and then I'll see.
I was just going to say under discussion about the tree and also hipping the dormers on the plan.
Yeah, hipping the dormers.
The hipping of the dormers, we're just going to say was a drafting error, and we don't need to comment that. Mr. Mahan, in the motion, can you make reference to the street tree, and would you mind carrying over item 4, which is about the detailing for the next time that they come?
Yeah, well, I think what we would like is for the applicant, can he communicate with the arborist, the city arborist, find out about the tree, so we can get the comments from the city arborist, and then maybe when you're back, we can make a final decision on that, whether that should be replaced or whether it can be pruned and root protected, etc. And we want, when you come back, you're going to bring us all the details.
Correct.
Right.
And one other comment about neighborhood compatibility. When we give consideration to neighborhood compatibility, we don't look at things in the neighborhood that are wrong, that we wished were otherwise. So we have a neighborhood here where there's a lot of parking. Everybody's using their garages, and they're all leaving their cars on their driveways. We understand that that's the way the neighborhood has developed. We don't accept it, but there's nothing we can do about it. But we're not going to say, just because of that, we're not going to let you to repeat that mistake, because we think that every little thing that we can do to a neighborhood to improve it is better for the neighborhood and also better for your property values.
So with that, I'll call for a vote if there's no other discussion.
Just one other thing, just for the general public, in case anybody has the same question that I do. When we call in the city arborist to go look at a project, does he do a written report? So they do a written.
May I answer that? I just went through the process. What happens is any tree now in the setback, in the front yard setback, you have to, in writing, go into the city office where Tim is and put in a request to remove the tree. He's the one that's going to have the final word on it. It won't be us, it'll be him, because he will say no or yes, depending on.
But we'd like to see that.
Yeah, so we need to see his.
We'll bring that, okay.
Oh, can I ask a question? Who pays for that? Who pays for the arborist?
We won't
allow that.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So any other discussion from the board members? All right, with that, we'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? I actually will be opposed. And it's just because I think historically there's a precedence that can be there, but I'll be in the minority extreme. And with that, you can go on to the staff hearing officer.
Thank you.
We will move on to item 2, which is 2411 Foothill Lane. This is a new item for the board. It is a proposal for an 845 square foot second story addition. Oops, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 485.
485 square foot second story addition at the location of the existing roof deck. The 1.1 acre lot is in the Hillside Design District and is developed with a 3,798 square foot two-story single-family residence and an attached 1,258 square foot two-car garage. A 218 square foot pool and cabana. Proposed residence of 5,759 square feet is 114% of the maximum guideline of the floor area ratio. This is 2411 Foothill Lane. So with that, if I can have your names for the record.
Hi, my name's Chris Densel, Jane Gottlieb, and Lynn Kirk. Sister.
My sister.
All right.
She didn't understand the protocols.
Okay. Before you start with your presentation, I want to check with staff if there's anything to go over on this, and then
No staff comments.
no staff
Thank you.
comments. You may go with your presentation.
All right. What we have is an existing contemporary home that is painted with expressive, lively colors. It's been that way for 12 years or so. On a moderate hillside, there's an existing deck on the west end of the house, which is the area that we're proposing to locate an expansion to the family room. So the proposed project has no increase in footprint, and it complements and adds to the style of the house. Got a color rendering of how we propose to color match it to the house. It has high plates, yet the roof is lower than the other higher mass portions of the house. It's intended for displaying art, and the property is very well screened on all sides. There's photographs that we'll look at today that show the screening relative to the neighbor to the west and the public street to the south. And I think that's all I have to say at this time.
Okay. I'll just flip through the elevations real fast.
So where's the addition?
The addition is this piece right here.
This right here?
It's over
Yeah.
And the deck railing is existing.
This is the existing railing here. Right now, the deck railing comes all the way across to here.
Okay.
And this area is an entire deck presently.
Okay.
Can we see where that is in relationship to the site?
Yes.
Let's open up those photographs.
photographs?
This is the addition.
Okay, so that's right here.
Mm-hmm.
Can we pass these around too?
Yeah.
These are some photographs that you don't have that I think are helpful. They're from the adjoining site and also from the street.
Adjoining house. Adjoining site. What do you mean by that?
Or rather, the neighboring property. Here.
Do you have a photo this
Looking up
direction?
that driveway.
Oh, looking up his driveway.
Yeah, which looks off over that property line.
Where are you?
I think it's one of
Oh,
these.
her
that-
driveway's right here.
Yeah.
So we're up a hill.
This is the neighbor's driveway right here.
So it's it's not on the street, it's above it.
Okay.
So it's not really seen very easily.
All right. With that, I'll go to public comment.
No, ask Tony first.
Oops. Tony, any
He's got
staff?
letters and stuff.
Oh, open up to public comment. Tony, do you have any comments
The
from
letter.
public?
Yes, we have letters that I believe we passed forward to you from Jane and David Gottlieb at 2411 Foothill, and Larry and Wendy Barrels, and Stephanie McCann. We also got a letter, let's see, another one from Kevin and Ann Gould. So we emailed all those to you. We have another one that we didn't send to you from Louis Ringa at 2406 Foothill. He's concerned mainly with the colors of the existing house. And he submitted some photographs that we have out there for you.
Okay.
Did you all read those letters, or
I
should
actually
I
didn't
summarize the
get. Can you
comments?
summarize them? If I got the email, I didn't open it because I was on break.
Okay, let's see.
Oh, good. I was gonna say- okay.
So the Goulds are, let's see, they're concerned about the colors. It's not compatible with the ranch and Spanish style of the neighborhood. Stephanie McCann is concerned about the size of the addition and the size of the house, and also the setback of the project. And the Barrels letter, their concerns are about the colors. Let's see, the Gottliebs are concerned about the colors. And I'll pass
Okay.
those letters around too.
I got them. Those are the three that you talked about? Okay. Oh, plus the two that we haven't given. Okay. So with that, I will, there's no one else in the audience for public comment, so I will go to the board. Any questions from the board members?
I have a question, Mr. Chair, but
I'll wait for you to return.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I also have a letter in opposition from Paula Westbury.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I have a
do
question.
we have the colored elevations so we can see what color the proposed addition is, et cetera? And
That's actually a great question.
So these are the existing colors of the house. This is the side, and then this would be the front. So this is already what the house looks like on the bottom. So it's adding this part right here.
Another question. Wait a minute, let me get this, Mr. Chair. Get this thing on. Another question. Do we have any pictures of this? What is this? What's
That's
happening?
a deck, and then their and
So
then
this is
their
their
house.
this is their deck.
Yeah, that's a deck, but their pool and their yard is here. Oh, and this is not actually the garage. That's
That's a cabana.
That's a
But we don't. You
cabana.
don't have any pictures of this here.
No.
Only seen from the street, Bill.
And there are trees all along here and trees all along on both sides of the fence.
That tower, 30 feet. Was there a letter from that neighbor? I don't.
Yeah.
Yes, there was.
One of them is from her.
Is that McCann?
Yeah, that's McCann. She doesn't live there, but she rents it out. And Gee, everybody told me they love the colors. I have to tell you, I'm completely surprised to hear any neighbor. Everybody walks by going, I love you. Even the Burrells are my
You know
neighbors.
what, ma'am?
They're
Ma'am.
yes.
Thank you.
So I'm surprised at that.
All right.
Sorry, it's your turn.
Thank you.
The questions, sorry.
Any other questions?
Are these steps along the side existing or those new?
Those are all existing.
They're all there.
Let's go to Glenn and then
Turn the
Jeff
model
together.
around a little bit here
There's
and
nothing
see
on the back.
what it looks like.
Okay. So, Mr. Chair, one question was there any FAR study of the neighborhood done?
No, in talking to our planner, that was going to be left to a future conversation.
Okay, and then the second question, what is the age of the original building? When was it
was
done?
designed in the early 70s
77.
by Escudero, a LA architect, and then it was added to quite extensively by Tom Oshner. The style's always been contemporary, and then I made an addition to it possibly 12, 15 years ago.
So in those additions that have occurred over the course of time, was there design review on those projects? Do you know of?
I don't know about the original building, and I don't know about Tom Oshner's project.
Okay. So when you did the addition, was the color of the house as we see it today?
I would have to go back and look at that. I don't know.
No.
It
I don't
wasn't.
think so. No, it's because when we just bought it, it was beige and brown. And we moved from LA.
Okay. Carrie, did you have a comment?
I did have a question.
Question? I'm sorry.
Do you know if the gate to the driveway was original, or is it permitted? And I guess that would be a question
When I bought
for
the
staff.
house, the wall and the gate, the wall around the property and the gate were there.
And when did you buy it?
12 and a half years ago. 12 years ago.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Earlier today, I looked through the records on the property, and I didn't see where this house has ever had design review. There was a record, I forget what year, seems like it was in the 80s, of a modification approval for a wall to exceed 3.5 feet out at the front property line. And there was a condition of approval of that modification that the gate be 20 feet from the street. So there is reference to the wall and the gate.
So the gate is not 20 feet.
It's not 20 feet. It could be. You go up the hill before you, well.
You know what? We didn't have as-built information for that gate.
Okay.
It may not be correctly drawn.
Okay.
But
Well,
yeah.
I would say our review here is for the proposed addition and acknowledging the fact that it's over the guideline of the FAR.
Exactly.
And so that's really the discussion that we have here at hand, and it goes with the color, because if we approve the addition, we're also approving the colors that you're proposing for the addition. And so it goes back to saying now we're talking about the colors of the entire house, because the colors that are currently there have not been reviewed by a design review board, even though at the time the house wasn't required to have that, from what staff has just told us. So with that, we'll go to comments from the board.
Mr. Chair, I have one more question.
Okay.
This picture here, is this the deck that we're...
That's
Yeah.
the deck.
So this is what you're adding on to.
We're adding on top of that.
Thank you.
Yes.
The railings and things, were those added by you, or were those always there?
As far as I know, they've always been there.
They've always been.
That was part of our addition. We had the permit for that. It was part of the studio that was built, and that railing was part of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It was
and that was
but
permitted.
didn't go through design review.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't have design review then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I want to turn back to the board for comments on how to proceed forward, give the applicants some suggestions or direction. Glenn?
Mr. Chair? I guess for comments, the first thing I would say is if we had FAR information as a neighborhood study, that would be a good information for us to understand if the majority of the houses are larger on big sites or, where you are relative to your neighbors. So I would ask if we could include that into the next go-around. The issue of color, I would say is, and I think Paul hinted to it before, is as this project gets larger, I think it becomes more significant as to what the color may be. And personally, I feel it may want to be toned down some. That's it, if we're getting larger. Other comments would be, and I think Bill mentioned it, if we had more photographs from that deck looking towards the neighbor specifically on that side, that would be helpful. And just a general other comment, I think that the addition, even though it's a large FAR, is nicely done with the existing house, and I think the style is very cohesive. So those are my comments.
Thank you.
There's the side.
Mr. Chair, I'll follow up on that.
Okay.
There's the side.
Yeah, I agree with those comments. I think that the house, in my estimation, the house is not compatible with the neighborhood, but it does exist already. If it was a bare lot and you proposed this, I don't think that the board would. I don't think they could make the finding that this is compatible with the neighborhood. In this, I don't live too far from here, so I'm pretty familiar with the neighborhood. And I think that consequently, when you expand a big house like this, as Glenn said, the impact of these colors impacts the neighborhood more, and that's an issue. And since all of the letters that we have received are from your neighbors and are concerned about that, and the few times that I've driven up that road and gone by this house, it certainly was a surprise to me. And I think that it might be that there's very attractive contemporary houses sometimes can stand different colors than the Spanish houses or ranch houses, and the Luis Barragan style of colors are something that you might want to study. But I think that the colors could be colorful, and it could still be more in keeping with this rural. This is really a rural neighborhood and a very rural street. No sidewalks, 14 feet, 16-foot wide paving. So I would have a hard time supporting the addition and the expansion of a very big house already, unless I can be convinced that that the impact to the neighborhood isn't going to be. It's not going to be detrimental to the neighborhood, and color is going to be an issue here. There's no question about it, as far as I'm concerned. So,
Comments from other board members? Gary?
Yeah, I'd like to make some comments. First off, I'm not so sure about the addition and how it will impact the neighbors. It's an expansive wall with a lot of plaster that is facing the neighbors, and I'm going to jump on the color too. I just don't see how this color can be compatible at all with the neighborhood. These colors are not compatible in this combination in Santa Barbara. I mean, this is more of a Caribbean color combination or something that is not generally seen in this community. And I, for one, feel that the colors are completely incompatible, and would like to see if regardless of the addition or the expansion of this building, if there's an ordinance violation that that is happening right now with the existing colors. Obviously, there are neighbors that are adjoining the property that are upset about the colors, and I, for one, am somewhat upset about these colors. I think the colors are a little too they're too in your face, and I don't think it's compatible with Santa Barbara.
Okay, that's no comment. Anybody else? Bernie?
Actually, Tony, is there any different requirement for parking when houses exceed a certain size from a 2-car to a 3-car?
All single-family residences are required to have 2 covered parking spaces. Well, with the exception if you're below 85% of the FAR, then you can do 1 uncovered space.
So that's the maximum you
Well, on larger A1 and A2 lots, you can have a 750 square foot garage.
Aaron?
Yeah, thanks. My main comment was the east elevation is pretty stark. I know there's some good screening there with bamboo and whatnot, and that's great, but I would work on some fenestration on that side of the addition. As far as the colors, I think it's matching existing, and I don't, unless there is a violation here, I don't think it's fair to repaint the whole house in earth tones just for this addition. So that's where I stand on the colors.
Denise, do you want to talk or pass?
I'll pass.
All right. My comments will be, I'm glad that this corner isn't filled in the sense that when I read the agenda and said that was going to fill in the existing deck, and when I went to the house and I stood at the driveway and I could see where that deck was, and I envisioned the 2-story right there, I saw it as getting really tall, like Titanic-ish right there, and that is pushed back, so that's a quality design effort right here. I mean, it's just like 6 feet or something, but it makes a difference because I was trying to figure out what the impact of 114% of the FAR on a large lot. Well, if it's in the back of the house and I never saw it from the street, who cares if you were 113, 118? But right there at the front going up. And so I was glad to see that this design was pushed back. The design is a little on the strong, tall side, but I guess what bothers me the most about the design, talking about just the shape, is the fact that there's this straight hard line following the setback versus having some geometry, because there's all this cool geometry happening here and it doesn't happen here. And so whether you whittle that away or something having to do about the architecture, or take more of this away so this reads as a pure square form like this stuff does. Architecturally, this elevation kind of doesn't fit the rest of the language of the structure. So that's what I see with the design. Having to talk about the color, the one element about, I like bold colors. I mean, that is me. But what I'm slowly trying to get used to is how the colors change at a corner. Instead of one plane being one void, or one solid, then another solid, then another solid. I have green here and I have the fuchsia here, and then it forms this line. And so that's my hesitation just from my design training, where I would think that this whole element is this color, this whole element is this color. So what I think what I see us doing as a board is, by approving the addition in this location with the color scheme, we're also basically approving the colors for the entire structure. And I'm willing to go there with some more thought about the colors and understand a little bit more about why it's one line versus one line, and understand some of the thinking that's going behind it. So the 2 points that I would have to say is a little bit about the architecture conforming back to the original design, and studying. We as the board look at like Mr. Mahan said, this is an existing color scheme. It's been here for a while. It's an existing structure. But I just want to talk a little bit more about the edges and what the thought behind it was. So those were my comments. So before you get to comment, we'll go through and see if there's a motion that can be raised, and then we'll open for any other additional comments.
Good. Chair, I just wanted to, may I
Yes.
follow up on what you're talking about, I think, is the concept of defining masses with color rather than facades, and I think that's one of the things that this building, as it's painted now, does. It just each facade is a different color, or even multiple colors within the facade, but the mass isn't identified by particular colors. So I think that's a very good comment, and that's something that they could study. But as long as they're going to study that and go, if they choose to go in that direction, I would love to see them revert to colors that, even though they're rich colors. We approved a building a couple of in December that Jeff Shelton did over on the other side of the hill.
Franceschi area.
On Franceschi, and very, very rich colors. But we felt that they were still appropriate. They were appropriate for the particular area. So I hope that Chris, I hope you can think about these things and how, if we're going to make this house bigger, how are we going to also make it better?
Well, maybe I should ask the question of the board. Does anyone have a strong objection to the going over 100% FAR in the location of where this addition is located, without having additional information about the neighborhood? Bernie is. And on the fence. On the fence.
May I make another comment real quickly?
And then I'll go, yes.
Okay, is that I really, really agree with your comments about the architecture on the addition, that it does not match the rest, and that straight, long shot that the neighbor gets to look at is not, I don't feel appropriate for the addition. I think that keeping the square idea, is much more appropriate for this.
Okay. So going back to when we form a motion, one of the first items in the motion is to study the FAR, size of the house, in relationship to the neighborhood. And one of the points that you need to come back to us with is the placement of the addition and how it's not impacting the neighborhood, because this committee was formed in the sense that a lot of large houses were being built and everyone was saying why. And so when architecture can be sculpted and created to not appear large, then that's when over 100% FAR is perhaps appropriate. So that's your first task on the... And then the second one, from what I can tell, is going to be the color study. And I was going to say how many people on the board are okay, or just I would not even go there. I'd just give you the opportunity to come back with some more information about your colors and where the house is and why, and where you would like to see the house go to, and have this board make an approval of the entire color scheme in addition to the addition. And then you have a design review colored house that can stay for the test of time.
I'll try a motion.
Okay.
I'm going to move for a continuance for the applicant to bring us information on neighboring FARs. I don't think you have to go to the 20 like we normally do, because this is... But let's see what are some of your neighboring houses and how big are they? Are they in this range? Study the addition in terms of the making it more compatible with the very interesting massing of the rest of the house, as opposed to the straight up wall, etc. Study get with your applicants and talk about colors. Would they be willing to redo the colors of the house and articulate the massing rather than the facades? Understand what
surfaces.
The planes.
Yeah,
Planes.
rather than the planes. Articulate the massing.
Geometry.
The geometry, right. And if that is true, are there some other colors, I know that these people want to have a colorful house, and I think we can work with that. Are there some other shades that would be acceptable to them that the board also might find more acceptable and more compatible with the neighborhood? That's my motion.
Okay. Is there a second for that motion? Second by Bernie. Any other discussion? Yes, Bernie.
Just two quick things. I know, I read these letters, and I was wondering if you had met with your neighbors to review your proposal.
No, I went around and knocked on doors and nobody was there, and I left them a note with your sheet in it saying, please call me. I'd love to show you the plans and discuss it with you. So they didn't.
I'm just thinking that would be really helpful. And then I'm also wondering, if we move forward with this possibility, are we set back far enough, or do we need a modification?
No modifications were listed in the, I don't believe, staff, there's no modifications necessary.
Can I make one comment?
Yeah, get near the mic if you don't mind. Thanks.
Yeah, I just don't want to leave the board with the misconception. A couple of you seem to think that this facade is in the view of this neighbor. I heard that said. It's not.
You'll come
at
back
all.
to the board with addressing that issue.
I know, but while there's the passage of time.
You know what? We're wrapping it up.
With the passage of time, I just wanted you to know that it's not in view.
But can I want to say something. That part of that is existing already. That's not,
Okay, ma'am.
No, second floor though.
Yeah.
all right.
Paul, can I make a
Make it brief,
quick,
please.
brief comment? I just want to remind the board that this is 114% of the FAR, and generally, when we go over those sizes, we're talking about exceptional architecture and how the board feels that is this exceptional architecture? Are we having such a large building with great eye-focusing colors, and is it exceptional? And that's the only thing I just want to keep in mind.
To wrap that up, if you look at this surface area right here, this quadrant, and you see all the different planes, and you look at this is all one surface, yet you've got one window treatment, another window treatment. So there's an opportunity of sculpting this roof. Changes your roof forms, but that's where I go back to the architecture, and he's talking about architecture is the forms and the massing. And so this is just what you have to chew on, to work on.
I know. Just one little sentence.
We're done.
That's it. Okay.
So I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And thank you.
Thank you.
And the model was very helpful.
Yes.
Oh, was it?
Oh,
Good.
yes.
Good.
Did we take all this back? Or do you guys leave this here?
What I inherited. You see, those are yours.
Chris, get some books on Luis Barragan. And
I've got one. Yeah, I know. I know what you're saying. I inherited this color. Is that me? Is this mine?
We have to have staff go through and figure out which are staff and which you can have. Because some of them were stamped, received by the city.
I think I brought all those with me.
I think you're here for us again, aren't you,
Yeah.
Chris? You're very good at shutting people off.
Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute recess since we're ahead of schedule. So we will return at 4:20, 5 minutes. It's a new item. It's a proposal to construct a 79-square-foot addition to an existing 300-square-foot detached garage and a 373-square-foot accessory space above the garage with an upper deck. The existing 1,839-square-foot two-story single-family house is located on a 7,500-square-foot lot. Staff hearing officer approval of a modification is requested to allow the addition to the garage to encroach into this interior setback. The proposed total of 2,591 square feet is 85% of the maximum floor area ratio. Comments only. Project requires environmental assessment and staff hearing officer approval of a mod. One second. If I can have your name for the record and a presentation.
Hi, good afternoon. My name's Chris Dentzel, and Mark Sotkow and Bill Gilo, the owners.
Okay.
So what you have in front of you is a property that has a detached garage, which is located in this position here. It's non-conforming, and what we're proposing to do is to make it conforming in the depth and to improve in the width. Also proposing a second story above, a small accessory space. The existing building is a Spanish, I think it was built in the 40s, wasn't it? 30s. Mediterranean style. And the proposal is to complement that style with the renovation of the garage and the second story above. The garage is located about a foot off the property line, so a mod is required for this one small corner in the rear of the garage. The second story conforms to the setback. No mod is being asked for the location of that second story. I don't believe we have a letter from our neighbor, but we have spoken with our neighbor who is supportive of the project. That's our immediate neighbor to the west, or to the south, I'm sorry.
Can we look at the upper floor and the elevations?
Sure.
So just to reiterate, the only mod that's being required is this corner right here?
Right back here.
Okay.
Right here, yeah.
Good. It's pretty straightforward. So with that, I will ask staff if there's any written letters from public.
Yes, we do have one letter in opposition from Paula Westbury.
Okay. I'll open the floor to other members of the public. Seeing nobody, I will close public comment and return it back to the board for questions. Mr. Mahan?
So this area here is, what is this, like a little porch here? But
No, it's just a cover. It's an area above that's a deck.
Yeah, up here.
That's the deck above right here.
Yeah.
And it's open underneath.
What's the function of that?
The function is that Bill is someone who enjoys gardening, and so probably gardening supplies and whatnot will be placed in there.
Okay, any other questions?
Mr. Chair?
Glenn?
Chris, you mentioned the width was going to improve, but not necessarily come up to the
Conform.
Why can't we go another couple inches there?
Well, a couple of reasons. There's, in my estimation, a delicate balance with the building relationship to the open site in the rear of the property. And to make it conform, we would be going another foot and a few inches. And while the garage works now as a garage with less width than what we're proposing, I feel taking it all the way up to the 20-foot net clear interior dimension is going to just overpower the rear of the site. And also there's some existing site walls in stone that we'll have to pick up and rebuild once we come out another foot and 4 inches.
If you don't mind me asking, has transportation looked at this?
They have, and they've given us their approval, or their support, rather.
Their support? Okay. Any other questions from the board? If not, I will move.
Mr. Chair, just you, Chris, you are aware that there's a 15-foot guideline for the deck from the property line? Is your deck 15 feet back?
15-foot guideline for the deck?
On single-family home?
Well, we had a preliminary plan check. It's we could think of it as a landing also, we could, if need be, but in Tony's plan check, that wasn't brought to my attention, so.
If we're 1 foot on this side, then we're 6 plus that distance, so he's about 8, maybe 9. Let's just,
But not all of it, just back to this line right here. I mean, mean, at what point a landing becomes a deck, I'm not sure.
This is the landing.
But also, this is a landing here, too.
Okay, we'll move on. Any other questions? We'll go straight to comments. Is your mic on, Mr. Chair, or Mr. Mahan?
Well, I just wanted to look at this elevation here. So this is the deck we're talking about right there.
Correct. And there's an ample design solution that could satisfy what the concerns are in this location, so it's not a project killer.
I can go on into comments if there aren't any other questions.
You may.
I mean, I think the architecture is very charming, and this is a wonderful. This is one of my favorite streets. It's just there's just a lot of nice little houses along this street, and this is one of them, and this is a very nice addition. I think if this is going to be used for gardening, it should be closed in some way. Rather than open. I don't know what the view is from the neighbors above. I think this goes up. I think the neighbors behind you are uphill, and they kind of look down. So it might be something that you want to give consideration to close that in. And I think that to meet our guideline, we'd want to see a screen wall here on this deck here, so that you're not looking into their backyard. But other than that, I could certainly support the little mod in the corner of the garage, and I think the almost wide enough garage is adequate, given the restraints of the existing stone wall, etc. So those are my comments.
Okay. Any other comments?
I think the design is really great. It's really keeping in with the style of the building, and it's very ornate. I don't know if I agree with Bill about closing in that section under there. I actually think it would be nice if it's going to be a potting area, or it's going to be someplace that it is open, and I think if it was one wall of plaster, it wouldn't be quite in character. The upper story at the deck, I kind of feel like the windows, the doorways, are not really centered into the architecture of the building. You've got this porch area that doesn't really work with the design guidelines, and it really doesn't work with how how it looks with the window and the covering. So I'm not really sure how this entry area is working, and I think that could use some work. And maybe you want to reverse the bathroom over to the opposite side and have the entry to it. That would perhaps center it a little bit more, or maybe make that deck smaller. So I think that could use some review. And that would be my comments.
Okay.
Oh, and one more, just the garage, just to make sure that we have a quality garage door. Not necessarily that it has fenestration, but that it meets with the architecture that you're proposing here.
Are there any other comments from the board members?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I agree with Gary. My main comment is I just want us to look carefully at the upper level deck in terms of its size and possible impacts on the neighbors.
We'll do that. Okay. Just to get people's nod, is everyone okay with the requested mod and how it affects the architecture in the neighborhood? So absolutely.
I don't see Mr. Chair, I don't see in the description what the size of the deck is. It just says an upper level deck. What is this, Chris? It's not very big.
Probably 5.5 by 9 feet.
45, 50 square feet.
I think the threshold between what's a landing and what's a deck is like 40 square feet. It's like 4 foot by 8 foot or 3 foot by 9. There's some kind of dimension. So, but there's design solutions to alleviate the concerns where you're going to be looking at your neighbor, and so it's either a 5 or 6 foot high, transparent or screen of some sort, arbor. You can do some kind of solution along this way that'll take care of that concern. And so that's that.
Mr. Chair, I wanted to comment to Gary. I wasn't suggesting that this wall would be filled in with plaster, but with glass. You know, if it's going to be a potting shed, it could be glass. It could be. I'm not. My comment was to study that, but I'm not adamant about that. But it's a thought. I think a Spanish grill, some kind of a Spanish grill here, would be acceptable, and certainly would be acceptable to the style of the architecture, or wooden spindles, or just there's a whole bunch of different ways.
Can I offer one thing?
I think we've got it pretty much resolved, and we'll move this project forward. And I wrote down some notes. The only thing I won't put in the motion, or I'll float a motion, is Gary's comments about the location of the doors, and I'll let you just study that as a comment that one of the board members made. And you're more than welcome to return with another solution. But I'll craft a motion that says that the board finds no adverse impact to the requested mod for the garage, and that the board would like to see the applicant address the screening for the deck that is less than 15 feet from the property line, and that the applicant should provide some additional information about the potting area underneath the deck. I'll just leave that into your court, and that the applicant should return to the board with a cut sheet for the garage door, and the board would like to see a high-quality garage door.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'll make that a motion with continuing that to the modification hearing officer.
Okay, and then back to full board or back to consent? Probably should be full board to see how this is being resolved. Or
Yeah, let's do that.
So back to full board after you're finished with your staff hearing officer. So I need a first and a second.
I made the motion.
Okay, first there, second by Glenn. Any other discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, how far is the deck from the property line?
Between 8 and 9 feet.
So I don't know. I don't know if that even meets our guidelines.
The guideline's 15 feet, and the project's coming back to the full board. What we are asking for is him to either relocate the deck or to provide screening in that one location. And the screening would be at eye level, a smidgen above eye level at this point, to protect the adjacent neighbor's backyard.
Could we see where the neighbor's yard is in relation to that?
It'd actually be,
It's on the site plan.
the next time you come back, just bring a couple photographs of this region so that we can understand. And there's some concern. Any other discussion? And with that, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Are those the ones with your stamp, or are those my originals? Because I had copies for you always. Okay, these are mine. Thank you.
Willing to start 15 minutes before a project.
10, 15, we have to wait 5 minutes. Next 20 minutes.
Oh, 20 minutes. Oh, my goodness.
Take a 5 minute.
We will be taking another 5-minute break. We will start at 4:50 on item 4. Santa Barbara Single Family Design Board for January 4th. We're going to go on to item 4, which is supposed to start at 4:55. We're starting at about 5 minutes early. It is 1220 Shoreline Drive. It is a proposal for a 331 square foot addition to the second floor and a 447 square foot first floor addition. Remodeling of the existing 1,064 square foot two-story single-family residence with an attached 379 square foot two-car garage. The proposed total is 2213 square feet. On 5,600 square foot lot. In the appealable district of the coastal zone, that is 85% of the maximum floor area. Planning Commission approval for the coastal development permit is requested. Before we start with the applicant, is there any staff comments?
Not really, Mr. Chair. Just that this will need a CDP, so it's here for your comments to be passed along to the Planning Commission.
Alrighty. With that,
I think there was one letter written.
we'll get to public comment later. I'm just now noticing on the wall it says introduction by chair, staff comments optional, and then applicant. So I'm going to try to follow that now and pass the ball real fast to him.
Okay.
So now I'll go ask you to say your name for the record.
I'm Tim Zimmerman, architect for the Kurzweils, and Lauren Kurzweil is present. And
Maybe get a little closer to the mic. It's on. Just bend. There you go.
we propose adding 340 square feet to the second floor, which is over the garage, and then providing a 6-foot setback from the front of the garage on the front, so it gives the second floor a nice recess from the street. And then we're creating one bedroom there, and then we're enlarging a bedroom on the first floor. So we have 3 bedrooms total.
Okay. Let's go to a site plan, if you don't mind.
If we go, let's go to the existing site plan first, and then we can show you what we did. This is the existing garage, and this is an existing side patio that has a trellis. So we're adding the second floor over this portion of the garage, and then we're adding a first floor in this area, which we're able to create a stairway going up to the second floor. And then here we're adding to the bedroom into the backyard. We're still maintaining, I think, over 1,500 square feet rear yard
With
requirement.
1,250 square foot open yard?
Yeah, we're actually at 1,500.
Okay. And you're 85% of the max FAR for the lot size?
Yes. So this is the existing kitchen. We're adding out here to make this bedroom and bath larger, and then we have the existing garage at the second floor over here. We're pushing out part of the garage here to create a space for a washer and dryer, so that the interior of the garage stays completely clear.
Where's the staircase
It
at?
runs up here.
Okay.
That's on another print here. So this is the stairway going up, and then there's a balcony here, and then you go into the second floor. Here again on the second floor, we have a balcony running across here that going into the bedroom. And I created a design element on the side where we've pushed out for a bath, and also where we've made room for a washer and dryer. And that's this element coming up here. It looks like a chimney, but it's actually part of the square footage. And I felt it was kind of a neat way to incorporate the first and second floor without pushing the wall out. And it has a copper cap on it. So I think it's a nice design element that separates these two elements here.
Okay. With that, oops.
See, this is the east elevation here,
Yes,
and this is the west elevation.
that's
So
the
that's
west,
the
yeah.
addition at that bedroom area.
Right.
And this is the rear, so this is that new bedroom, the bath window and the bedroom window.
Right.
So it's a window right there.
I did take,
We need to go to we're not to questions, we're just your application.
Okay.
What, do you have anything else to add? You may, and then I'll go to public comment.
well, I did go on Del Oro, all the way across the back, and I did take photos of those houses. And all those houses are two-story along here.
Okay. All right. With that, I will ask if there's any public comments. Seeing nobody, I will ask staff. Is there any letters?
Yes, we have a letter in support from Kristen and Jim Scheib at 1215 Del Oro Avenue. They just say they would like to lend support to the remodel project. Zimmerman Architects have done many attractive homes in our area. Also, we know the Kurzweils to be caring and responsible neighbors who will be considerate of their impact on the neighborhood. And we have one letter in opposition from Paula Westbury.
Okay. What was the street number for the one on Del Oro?
1215.
1215. Okay. Back fence neighbor.
You kind of pick up the two-story houses in the background. And I did take photos of those.
Of the Del Oro ones?
Yeah, which are right here. That's shoreline, that's 1216 shoreline. And these are all on Del Oro. Right across here.
Okay. Thank you. I will return it. Can we actually keep this with the record?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's make it the last sheet. With that, I'll return it back to the board for questions of the applicant. Mr. Mahan.
I have a question. I don't know if it's to the applicant. It's to somebody. This is called on the plans, this is called a balcony. What's our definition, Tony, of a balcony? Is this a balcony or a deck? That's the question.
Let me look it up.
Thank you. So we'll table that question until we get an answer.
Okay. Okay. And then another question I have. This is a two-story space here. This is the whole. This is all.
Yes.
That's this thing right here.
Yes, right. I think it creates a nice volume here inside when you're coming up the stairs and then with the balcony. What I've done here is I've opened up the wall on this side, so from the balcony you look down into both spaces. You look down into here and also into here. So you look down in both spaces here.
So it's really like a bridge.
Yes.
Do you have enough height? Height, is it?
Right there. That's it right there.
Oh, because you're adding a sloped roof right there.
Yes, right. It's kind of nice when you have a second floor where you can walk out onto a balcony and talk to someone below instead of running up and down the stairs.
Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is a question for the applicant.
Bernie?
When I was in
This house, I don't remember that it had a second story. And
No, it doesn't.
It sounds like that
It
it
was
does
actually
have a
noticed
second.
that way. It says
It is the second story.
It says an existing 1,064 square foot, two-story single-family residence. So the way it's been written, it implies that it's an existing two-story.
Right, that's in the very first sentence, to the second story, it's just, but it's a single-story home right now.
So what we'll do is in the motion, we'll make that comment number one is to work with staff in correcting
Yeah.
the description. Thank you.
See, it says addition to the second story.
Don't worry about the
Okay.
wordsmithing. We'll get to it.
Okay.
Currently, it's a one-story house and
Yeah,
is
right.
being proposed as a two-story.
Right.
Thank you, Bernie.
existing house is plaster, and you're proposing to shingle it?
No, it's all shingle.
The existing is shingle? Okay,
Yeah.
I just couldn't see that photo.
I have another question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Bill.
If this is really a two-story space, isn't it true that if that's over 17 feet, that it's got to be included in the FAR?
I think it's only in attic spaces that are greater than like 5'9" in
But
height.
a single story, but this is a, is this space, the second story of this here? I mean, if this is considered a single story place, and it's more than 17 feet high, does that have an effect on the FAR? I guess it just means that it comes under review, doesn't it? That's all it means. Yeah.
I would say because right now the project is at 85%, that it would throw that into the zone between 85 and 100, but this square footage would not throw it over 100. If for paper's sake, if we were to include that area.
I think it's usable. Isn't it usable square footage?
That's the thing. But from the standpoint of mass, it's. I mean, this when you look at this. This is a two-story, I mean, it's got the mass of a two-story space, even though it's only got the FAR of a one-story space.
Correct. No, I hear what you're saying.
What's the word on the balcony?
It looks like the difference between a balcony and a deck is that a balcony is cantilevered. It doesn't specify size. If you're asking about when the guideline, the 15-foot guideline to the property line applies, that applies when a deck or balcony is over 20 square feet in size.
And do they give some 20 square feet?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what do we have here? We've got 9, 4 and 9 is 13, 4 times 9 is 36. When you say, what was that? What
20
was it?
20 square feet.
Okay, so that qualifies as a deck or a balcony.
Yeah, that'll be another comment on the, just to look at.
That's my question.
Any other questions from any other members?
Mr. Chair, just a clarification. Jim, can you tell us what the plate height of the second floor is? There's a couple different dimensions on here.
The second floor plate, it'd be 8 plus 12, 9. It'd be 17.
No, just from floor to rafter, I see 8 feet over here. I see 7 feet here, and it's a little bit.
Yeah, it's 8'4" to the plate line.
Just on the second floor.
Yeah. So it would be 12 inches for the floor. So you'd have 16, 17 feet 4 inches to the plate line.
Now on this side, it's showing 16 feet.
Yeah, the plate line of this is a little lower.
So that's a foot lower than over here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, let's go to comments, and everyone talk real slow because we have 30 minutes. I know you didn't want to hear that. So, comments from the board members.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Mahan.
I have a little bit of a problem with this, with our our 15-foot guideline in terms of that balcony and its use in relationship to the neighbor. I don't know exactly where this neighbor's house is, but I presume it's right about there.
Yeah, the house, the garage actually starts here, and that's the driveway, and the house is here.
Oh, so it's further over.
Yeah, this is the existing garage.
But, well, anyway, this I have some concerns about that, but I think the expression of this two-story space, 6 feet from the property line, I don't think I can support that. I think that I don't see that. I mean, the stairs start up here, so you don't really have the head height problem. I can see that this needs to be higher, and this roof could slope up the same way this one over here
Slopes
on this
down.
side slopes down. But I think that I just feel like that's too much, 6 feet away from the property line. That's too much height and light and everything else. I can't support that. Generally speaking, I think it's a very nice architecture, and it certainly is appropriate to the neighborhood and to the street. But I don't find that acceptable.
Okay. Comments from another board member?
Mr. Chair?
Gary.
Thank you. One thing I'm having a little trouble with is this little tower / chimney element that is 6 feet on the property line. It's adding mass at an area of the property and it's coming above the roof line, and there's not a real purpose for it. And I don't find that this architectural feature is really that compatible with this building, with its horizontal bats. And I would prefer it to be integrated into the roof line. I'm with Bill on the massing of the building. It's kind of hard to get a second story to have a second story massing with large fenestrations at the second story and skylight. That is just a volume for the family room. I can see that volume still being grand and reduced in scale. So I really think that this area above the family room could be looked at, especially seeing how it's hipped.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Any other comments? Aaron?
I don't disagree with many comments. I would like to see maybe a design option of seeing the deck internal to the building, maybe above the front door as an entry element or something like that. I was a little confused on all this existing paving around the house. Is it mostly existing?
All of this.
Especially on the side yards is my question. Is that
It's all sandstone. It's all sandstone. It's very.
But some of it's new
very
and some of it's
handsome.
existing?
Yeah, and no, it's all existing.
okay?
Do we have a picture of the side of that house? Would you bring us one?
Just the front. Which shows. This is the rear yard. Let's go to that.
This is you. This is them.
Yeah, that's the garage.
Okay, that's it right there.
That's the garage. Yeah.
Well, I haven't made any comments, so I'll just jump in. I guess I kind of agree with, I do agree with the comments that are being made about the two-story volume that's behind where it's basically at the stairwell, and also how tall this appears. And even though creatively I think it's great and it's a solution, it is adding extra mass. And if we look at this as just this bedroom is the two-story element, this is like a 400 square foot second story element, and it's grown to look like an 800 to 1,000 square foot because it's gotten so linear. A lot of it's just interior volume. So when you look at it from this side, because this is a one-story house right now, when we're looking this direction, just kind of like we look over here, we see the whole size of the two-story mass, even though this back section is just all air. So looking this direction, there's no need to have that excessive volume. So there is a way creatively that you can give them more head height here without making it a full two-story. So I think the comments that people are making is a valid design solution, and the way that this drawing shows how this elevator tower, the stair mass, or this kind of thing can be engaged in the building, or at least squatted a little bit more so that there's a trickling down in size. So I guess I'm concurring with the comments that are being made by the board members. And landscaping-wise, I mean, currently the landscaping is beautiful, and any more embellishment that can happen is wonderful. But looking at it from here, this is what I sense. And there's no reason why that can't drop 4 to 5 feet and still have a grandiose feeling. You can have a 12-foot plate up there, and then change your Tahoe roof element so you can make your bridge work.
Mr. Chair, I have another question. So the balcony here is cantilevered. It's a cantilevered balcony.
Portion of it is
right.
cantilevered, correct.
I see, and just underneath, yeah. I think just if we have a 15-foot guideline for a deck,
Yeah,
and so you've
right.
got a 20 square foot. People want to step out there and with their coffee and the owner and watch the sunrise, and you can do that in 20 feet. You can get away with it, but it's just a little bit too big, and we'd have to. And I think it's probably not supportable as big as it is.
Correct, and there's a design solution because what they're really wanting to do is not create a party deck where you have people out there where it's just one person enjoying the view. Yes.
Yes, I just had a question here. I noticed there was a little paving, there is going to be a little paving change on the west side of the house, where there was a kind of semicircular planter there, and there's a tree there, and it looks like you're keeping that tree. Do you know what kind of tree that is there?
No, I
In
don't.
that little planter,
Do we
it's
show on,
there. It doesn't say
on the
either
pictures?
place.
I think we have a picture going up there.
Not much of a tree because
the side of the house? Yeah, it's not tall.
I wonder what type it is, and if it will get tall to mitigate some of the height.
Let's see here. Actually, it's back in here. It's right here.
Well, maybe, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would suggest that this is going to require some.
Oh, here it is right here.
It's going to require some redesign, and looks like it's some kind
It's
of
a little
palm tree.
Yeah, a little
Yeah.
queen palm.
That he can identify that tree when he comes back.
Okay. So with that, question for you, a 2-week continuance, indefinite continuance?
2 weeks would be fine.
Okay. Does staff have that in this calendar?
Can I comment? Can I make one comment?
Make it brief. Yes.
I think the chimney element, I think it's a really nice design element coming up. I think maybe if I shingle it where it blends into the walls a little more, maybe lower a slight bit, I think it'll tie in. So I'd like to,
Well,
I'll try that.
You can come back with that.
Okay.
If we could, if someone from the board would like to make a motion, and it would be a 2-week continuance back to full board.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Bernie.
Before we do that, I was just wondering if I could state my comments real quickly.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, am I on? Okay, yeah, thank you. I agree with what's been said, and I'd really like to add just a couple of things about Shoreline Drive. Everybody knows that it's critically important to this community for not only for locals but also for tourists, and it's imperative that we keep any new homes from denigrating the neighborhood. We've made some mistakes in the past already, and people before us have made mistakes, I think, which started this whole idea of having a board. And this home is on a 5,663 square foot lot. And I think it's important to remember that, because even if the FAR is acceptable to the board with the deck and downstairs and upstairs and then all these extra features, we really have to look at the size of this thing and look at how it's going to affect the mostly single-story houses that are, it's going to pave the way, so we have to be, if anything, conservative rather than magnanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernie.
One thing I didn't bring up
Oh,
is
make it brief.
The city has a right-of-way in the front, which is an 8-foot right-of-way. So the second floor ends up being back almost 30 feet.
Well, if you
from
said
the
it was 8
sidewalk.
feet and then you're 20, so you're 28.
So it's not like, we're up right in the front, on the front setback. So that,
Okay, it's a good point. That was actually a great point to mention.
Sure, I'll make it.
Okay.
For a 2 weeks continuance for the applicant to restudy the massing of the single-story stair element, bringing that down. We recognize you have to have head height to get up the stairs, so it's going to end up being a 2-story space where it gets to the bridge. But to restudy that, to give some further consideration to the chimney-like element, maybe not making it so high, maybe the fact that it's a horizontal board and bat when the rest of the house is shingles. I don't know. Maybe it's why don't you study that too, and reduce the balcony to a maximum of 20 feet.
And that is it?
No, that's it. The 3
Is-
items that I got.
Is there a second on that? Okay, Denise? Mr. Chair, or Mr. Mahan, can you add something to your
Yes,
motion
of course.
about having staff correct the description?
And have staff correct the description, and this will return to us in 2 weeks before it goes on to a planning commission.
Okay. Any other discussion about the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll leave this other drawing
Yes.
here then.
Okay. We will hear the next item 15 minutes early, so we'll be moving on.
I'm assuming that's going to be set to 5:30.
Yes.
Happy New Year.
Let us clear the other project off first.
Hey, Tony. How are you?
This item will be item 5, which is 557 Aurora Avenue. Arroyo Avenue. Arroyo. Arroyo. It's a proposal to construct.
If that will.
We actually have to work.
There's one addition to it that were some corrections that they were asked to clarify.
If you don't mind, let's put this on the bottom and take the one that
There
has
are a
this.
couple things that,
Let's work off the one that had the city stamp on it, since this is the first time the project was heard. But you'll have this
then
below
I can
it.
bring up the changes later.
Yeah, but we need to work off the one that says received. It's the first time this project was heard. This is a proposal to construct a 233-square-foot first-story addition, a new 534-square-foot second-story balcony above a garage, replace all of the windows and doors. The existing 1,433-square-foot single-family residence and an attached 486-square-foot garage is located on a 10,000-square-foot lot in the Hillside Design District. The proposed total of 2686 is 70% of the maximum floor area ratio. I'd like to ask staff if there are any comments.
No staff comments, Mr.
Okay.
Chair. Thank you.
If you want to give your name and a presentation.
My name is Don Gregg with Santa Barbara Design and Build. I think it's important to note as we get started, there was a approved project, although I didn't do it, with the previous owners on this house, that was a much larger scale than what we're proposing. The new owners have bought it and just decided that they didn't think that they needed the space that the approved project got. So they went back and we've reduced it down a little bit. We want to first get a little bit familiar from the street. You look up at the house, and then as you get closer, we can look at some pictures later of the back of the house. If you look at the neighborhood, this is directly behind. So you're in a neighborhood where there's houses that have 3 and 4 stories, which are very large and overbearing. So it was important to, the owners here that we keep this thing within, a reduced thing, that they get a nice view, but it doesn't overlook everybody else. This is the house directly next door. And while it's similar, they did just a box on a box. We're trying to do a little softer look, but we can come back and take a look. If you look at where our house is located right here, and the addition is on the other side. Let me just do this while we take a look so you can see. As you go down, look at the elevation. So this would be the house that sits
Just make
over
sure you're
here.
close to the microphone
Oh,
so
that's
they
right.
can pick that up. Thank
This
you.
would be the house that would be over here. As you kind of see, the hill kind of goes down, so it's a nice place for this addition to be. It really doesn't impose on this. The houses across the street are more here. Over here, it's a nice, it doesn't overlook, it's a much better place to put the addition. We've also tried on the second story to put it over the garage, which already sets lower, so we can even reduce the height even more. And then, as you were talking, the last project that you had, they had the stairwell on the other side. We've got the stairwell that sets back a bit here, but then this is a 7-foot plate. We've reduced the plate, so when the roof comes down, we can sink it down as much as we possibly can.
Okay. You have a roof plan drawn?
I do have a roof plan drawn. And that's where you can see this one. I've got to correct, this is actually, the other one is what's corrected. It goes,
Let's quickly
yeah.
jump to that.
So you've got the gable that comes down here, and then when you get to this wall, it's a 7-foot plate. So you know, everything tries to sink down, because over the existing garage, it's a 1.5 foot down from the existing house. So you already start out a 1.5 foot lower, as if other than if you put the addition over the top, it would be higher. And as you look across the street here, is kind of where you would see houses that it would be a little bit more imposing on. Here it opens up, and it's a nice view that they would get a view, but it also doesn't overlook the neighbors quite as bad. So if you look from, this is from this back part over here. So if you're looking across, you see these houses. But as you, I've got some other pictures that show. This is a better picture. So if you put it on this side of the house, you're kind of looking into these. But it falls off here, so it's a nice canyon down there that it also doesn't impose over the neighbors' houses. It's the least impact, I think, to the neighbors on that.
Let's go to the site plan and then walk just quickly through the floor plan, the first and the second, just so we can see how the addition in relationship to the side yard property line.
The site plan, the challenge on this is we've got, it's a 10-foot setback currently. The house was originally built with an 8-foot setback on both sides. So you have this house over here, their addition is actually 8 foot again from the property, so it's only 16 foot apart. So what we've done is tried to push this back to keep it down and minimize it from the front and keep it within that 10-foot setback. And then even the deck, like you talked about on the last project too, make it smaller, because you don't need a huge deck, you know, to walk out from a master bedroom suite.
Well, let's go to the floor plan area. Let's see, elevation.
So you've got your existing house here and your existing garage, again, that sets a little bit lower. This would just set on top of this area here. You could take the stairway up, and that's why we try to reduce this, and then keep the living area over this space so we can keep it down.
Okay. And you're adding 233 square feet on the first floor?
Yes. We pushed it back to kind of mitigate the look from the front and also keep it within that setback, you know, because the angles. So if we push the addition back.
So where actually is the 233 on the first floor? This is the one right here.
Yeah, that should be.
And then all of this is on the second.
What shows right here, where I went to the new wall.
Okay, perfect. And then was this a deck that's off the front?
It will be a deck off the front. Now, we do need to get some comments. I did change, currently, if you look at the roof pitch, I didn't think this would be a big deal. Right now, you've got the roof that slopes this way, and I'm proposing that we move it to this roof line this way. But because we've got this 2 foot in that setback, that's going to require a modification. Or the modification, correct, Tony?
Okay.
And when Tony and I talked, we were hoping that they would look at that and say, okay, it's common sense, it makes sense, but we need to go through that process. We could make it the same way, but I think it softens it and makes it look much better to change that. It's still lower than it is, or the same height that it is in that setback, it just changes the gable direction. So I would ask you for comments on that when we went to the modifications there.
Can we see how that deck relates to the property line?
Yeah. And then we're going to look at that one item, then I will open public comment.
And then I have on the other plan, during the holiday, the applicants want to put an arbor there, so I put that on the other plan as well.
Okay, we'll get to that a little later. So with that,
We'll go to questions.
okay. Pretty good presentation. Understand the photos, understand what you're doing. I will
To answer your question, too, this only comes over 4 feet.
and he'll ask you at another point in the meeting. What I want to do now is open up public comment and see if there's anyone from the public that wishing to speak on this project. Seeing nobody, I will ask staff, are there any letters?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have a letter in opposition from Paula Westbury.
Okay.
And also, I'd like to make a clarification on our agenda. It should say that staff hearing officer approval of a modification is requested. We did send out a notice to the neighbors to that effect. And
So it was noticed to the neighbors needing a mod, but not
right,
for our
it
review.
should be on the agenda as well. And it's a very minor roof pitch. A little small portion of the roof, the way it's changing pitch, that would need a modification.
With that, I'll bring it back to the board for questions of the applicant.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Bill.
I'm trying to, I can't quite get this. This is that deck?
No, this is the back. The deck would be on the opposite side.
Okay.
This little roof element right here, is that what this
So
is?
this would be, let's do it this way, if this would help. I don't know where
I'm trying to see that deck from the
Thank
side view.
The side,
There it is, there it is.
Yeah.
Here it is, here, sticking out. And this is the new roof
Change
that
of
would
direction.
require the mod.
Correct, because currently it sheds the other way and
Currently it
gables
goes
this way.
Yeah. And that is, that's a parapet wall.
Yes, so it's 42 inches, so you don't have to put railing all the way around it.
And so that's the parapet wall right there.
Correct.
And this is the deck cantilevering. This, I mean, it looks somehow I don't. This looks like it cantilevers about 3 feet, and this looks.
That looks bigger, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue. I don't have it measured, but to me it looks bigger. It comes out 4 feet. Is what it should.
So the
come
question is this, is that dimension there, is that 15 feet? That's a, yeah. What scale is this? Of course, we're not sure it sticks out that far.
Right.
But it's, that says it's like about 13 feet.
It can be a comment to come back and address that.
We can
concern.
certainly, if we reduce that, just like we did here, we bring that in. Is that? I did not know that was a requirement. 15 feet from the property line.
Yeah.
It's a guideline we like to follow to give people privacy in their backyards.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Harry.
There seems, maybe you went over this earlier, and I was just looking at the drawings, but there seems to be a centering issue on the, I think, both west elevation. The pitch of the roof is not centered on the doors.
Yeah, I see that too. That would not be the case. It should be on the doors.
Okay. Same with over here.
Well, this one, he actually has
one
an
you explained.
8-foot plate here, and he has a 7-foot plate here, which is why it's
Why it's off a
asymmetrical.
little bit.
Okay.
But it is, if you look at it from the back, that's not my favorite, but if you stand at the very top of the lot, looking down, it's so much, that's really in a hole.
And my other question was, is this just a big piece of lumber?
It's going to be stucco because now with high fire, you've got to wrap everything.
And this is
It's stucco.
Flat, it'd be
beyond.
stucco too, which the current house is stucco too.
Okay. And
Thank
the
you.
iron railing?
Yeah.
Bernie.
proposing?
Sierra Pacific, which is it'll be a clad on the outside for a high fire, but a wood window on the inside. I did not.
Thank you. Good question.
So this is the south, and this is the west.
Gotta go. They changed that on me. I don't know why. I've got to go. Maybe I get turned around sometimes, but.
So this gable here is that gable there. That one sticking out there. That's this gable.
Yes.
Okay. Gary?
Sure. Could I ask a couple
Yes.
of questions if I could? So the front porch element is that proposed? That's new.
The front porch is not new. What we'd like to do, is it okay if I show you the other one?
Yeah, because he's actually looking at it, so go for it.
So, is they would like to add, they've got this open area here, is do an arbor, but within that setback. And it's on the elevations.
It's all heavy
So you
timber
want to
construction.
add a new arbor, but you're also
I also want to do this front door detail, because if you look now, this is what they asked
Yeah.
when I submitted. It's not a very nice looking detail. It's just kind of hanging there. So we'd like to do a nicer with some pillars.
And the other question is on the north elevation, is there an overhang on that roof, or
Yes.
or is it flat?
No, there's an
That's
overhang.
just a drawing error.
Yeah, right over here.
I don't know. Yeah, there's an overhang.
And it needs to be done.
Anything else, Gary?
It's annoying, some of it.
Bill, and then I'll go.
Well, yeah, this, I'm still trying to understand. That gable right there, is this gable here?
Correct.
But this is up above this ridge, and here it's down below the ridge. I don't understand how that's working.
Let's look at the picture.
It looks like it would be,
There's a couple of inconsistencies throughout the drawing, and what's 4 and 12 and what's 3 and 12.
There's the picture right there. So it's a little bit higher than that.
Yeah.
So this needs to come up to what it actually is.
now, this corner is that corner,
Yes.
and this corner is this corner. So this roof is just sticking out, and it's just sticking out there and unsupported?
Let's go to that new roof plan that you did. I think what we'll do is we're going to make some comments to have you come back to
And
the
then I can
board
clean that
with
up.
some cleaning
So,
up.
comes
this
this way, and then it
this
comes-
jog, so that's different.
That's why I went in and corrected that.
So let's,
I realized that.
I think we should more talk about broader issues and design suggestions for the applicant, and then have you come back to the board when you're ready, correcting a lot of these things just because we see them and that's what we do. I mean, we do it to our own employees or to ourselves when we draw it ourselves, so it's nothing personal, but
Oh, no, that's fine.
we're always constantly checking ourselves. So are there any other comments, or I'll move to, Denise, please.
I'm having a little trouble with the very wide expanse of building there with no elevation, no indentations or anything in the two little windows.
You're the first person to make comments.
Oh, I'm commenting.
We're going to move to comments, and they're going to be design suggestions for the applicant, and then we'll wrap it up with a motion.
Right. Anyway, that elevation in particular, I'm not having a great time with. It seems like the fenestration way up high is a little too small, and off to the sides, the placement is just seems wrong to me.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm having some issues with the cantilever deck. Just any effort to integrate it with the roof would be appreciated. Seems like an excessive cantilever for this style of a house.
Thank you. Glenn wants to go, and then I can bop to you.
Actually, my comment was exactly what Aaron was speaking about. Is I'm really having trouble with that balcony on the front, and it really is not integrated into the mass of the building very well at all, as far as I'm concerned. So I think that you really need to just take a look at that again. the windows in some areas, particularly the ones on the second floor, they seem to have very long or very low sills. Well, on the first floor definitely, and on the second floor on what we have on the south elevation.
I think that's because you've got that roof element that's going up the side, so the roof is coming up over the floor on that first story roof detail.
Let him
And then I guess the second comment would be, do we know, and seeing the question, what's the plate height of the second floor?
So it'd be 9.5 from this lower portion here. So
But from the second floor to your plate height, is that 8 or 9 or what?
8. It's 8 here, and it goes down to 7 where we can get it down as low as we can.
Okay.
And that's why we kind of stuck the stairway, tucked it down, because if you put it on the side, it gets too massive. But I think you can get your headroom through 7 foot on an open vaulted ceiling.
And I guess just to follow up, again, it's just a personal. It seems like the windows are just very low on the towards the ground on the second floor there, and I think the building would be better to have a higher sill on those windows.
On the first or the second floor?
Particularly the second, and there's some on the first floor that seem a little low on the one side as well, but that I think is acceptable there.
Mr. Mahan?
I agree with the comments that have been made. The balcony sticking out in front I don't think that's right. I'm not even sure that changing the slope of this is the right thing to do. You get this problem here where you've got to put a cricket in there to get that water to drain out away from that wall. And I would ask the applicant to study keeping this roof and that roof. Well, at least study it, because I think it would work better. And this is going to jog up, and that's maybe going to be more interesting. In these roofs, I mean, these elevations are going to change when you get these roofs corrected. But certainly, I agree with the comment that this east elevation, the composition of this big two-story mass, and these little windows kind of stuck on there in a way that doesn't seem to have any appropriate composition is inappropriate. And when you've got a big two-story mass like that, you need to the windows have to work to make it a beautiful thing, and that's not happening here yet. And so I think that let's see, change of the gable. And that deck out there in front, I wish you could find some other place for it.
Thank you. Any other comments from any other board members?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Gary?
A couple of comments. One, I believe it's the east elevation, north elevation. The north elevation on the second story doesn't have any windows on it, and it really is a very plain-looking facade. And I think that either in the staircase area or some other areas, they should incorporate some windows. I'm with all the other board members on the balcony that it needs some work. The cantilever isn't working. The roof lines aren't working. Looking at the roof plan, there's some architectural elements that don't work. The overhangs on them don't match on one side or the other, and they need to be cohesive throughout the plan. I'm a little concerned about the windows, the fenestrations, and I will be looking forward to looking at detail on the fenestration and what kind of windows are, whether they're vinyl or what they are. The front entry that is proposed, how the columns add up to the top of it. I'd like to see more detail on this. I don't think that this is completely worked out. how the there's no beam onto it, and what is plaster and what is going to be roof elements. We don't have a profile of that on the other elevations, so it's difficult for me to look at that. The proposed trellis that they're adding, I don't know if I have a problem with that or not, but I'd like to see that in maybe a little bit more detail.
Okay. Yes, Bernie.
This
Okay.
this is a question for you. Will not require any landscaping plan at all?
I guess there is going to be some ground floor disturbance because he is adding 233 square feet in the back, and any concrete that's being blown out in order for him to do his footings and things is an opportunity for a planter to be placed. So, and then he also is doing this trellis in the front, which is a landscape element and will have hardscape underneath it, so then I would say yes. But it's going to be a partial site landscaping because part of the site's not going to be touched. But in areas where there is work, a landscaping plan would be required.
Suggestion, comment. I don't believe you're in a high fire zone.
No, I think we are.
You
When I
are?
checked, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's why
On the Mesa?
when he asked that. Now, I think, can I ask a question?
You know,
why don't you get through and then I'll...
We're going to wrap it up. I think the board members were very kind and polite with their comments. There's the project is very minimal in size, and no one has a problem with the second story and the location and all this kind of stuff. It's working, and the magnifying glass is just really on the architectural character and blending it in so it looks like it's cohesive. So it's a very general statement, but there's great opportunity for you to design and to work and create something that works. And you can tell with the board when we start zeroing in, we're looking at the details and we're looking at the connections and making sure that it appears it works. So if we can have someone make a motion, or I can float one based upon the notes that I wrote. I'm hearing a nod for a float. This will be an indefinite continuance, so that means that you'll go back and revise your drawings, give them to Tony, and the next time there's a slot open, which is in a week or two, that you'll be on. Description. Was there a mod for this one? There wasn't. There's going to be a mod because they're changing the roof.
Well, if I studied, does the board like it better the other way?
Well, you avoid the mod.
Well, I would like to do it the other way, but I thought that the board would like it this way.
Actually, because you're creating a waterproofing problem right here, it'd be better to keep your roof the way it was. Okay. And then maybe you don't cantilever the balcony, but then the balcony is inner nest, or maybe just a portion of it, the railing is above it, and there's an interconnection. Someone was mentioning about how the front deck integrates with the roof mass, and there's something there that's lacking, and that's a design opportunity. Okay. So the first comment was to modify the description if a modification is necessary. The second item would be to study the design of the front deck, integrating the deck with the roof mass and the building mass. The third item would be to study the window design and the placement. And that's the motion, but the concern is maybe the center line here, the proportions if you have rectilinear ones here and then you have vertical up and down ones somewhere else. The fourth item would be to revise the roof plan and the elevation so that they're the same, just for little hiccups like this. The fifth item is to study the design of the east gable end and of the north end. And it's just, the word is just study to the design, and we won't be more specific than that, but you heard a lot of comments from different people. You know, there's a possibility of you maybe taking this one element and pulling this forward 2 feet or pushing that back 2 feet so that these two 7-foot plates work, or bring this down and bring that up. And so create something here to sort of break up that mass. Okay. But the comment is just to study that. The next item is to show the plate heights on your drawings. You've told us what it is, but it's not. Okay. And I commented about the window sills, or the window design layout. So that's a motion. If someone likes it, can first hit, second, and then tweak it. First hit, Bernie? Okay, are there any discussions?
discussion to have the applicant study the front porch element and to be it more in keeping with the neighborhood and in design.
I would agree. Is that okay with you, Bernie? And actually, to the first item about this, what a modification, study the description. If you're going to add the trellis, have them add that to the description when you resubmit the drawings. Any other discussion? With that, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Great. And we'll move on to item 6.
That's good. Fast is good. Slow is good. Everybody likes to get home early, right?
So we're going to take a 5-minute break and start the next one
Yeah.
at 5:50, which is 15 minutes early. Road. We are starting 15 minutes early. This is a proposal to construct an 820 square foot first floor addition, a 202 square foot second story addition, and a 400 square foot second floor deck. The existing 1,820 square foot 2-story single family resident and attached 420 square foot garage is located on a 22,000 square foot lot in the Hillside Design District. The proposed total of 3262 square feet is 70% of the maximum FAR. Action may be taken if sufficient information is provided. Is there any comments from staff?
No staff comments.
Okay. If you introduce yourself and give us a presentation, we would appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Tai Yang. I'm architect for the project. The scope of the existing house on the hillside, even though it's 1 story, but it actually looks from the lower end.
Let's just actually put out these photos really fast to people's memory.
Yeah.
It's got a 2-story part of it, but part of it is 2 stories.
Yeah. But this is the house. The house, the upper level is where the living space is right now. Underneath is, on one side is the garage and it's cross space. It's not being utilized. So this is at the site where it's not really readily visible from the street because of the landscaping. The house was built back in the 40s and has a very small 2-bedroom and 1 bath right now they're using. So what we're proposing, Mr. Chair, is to come out at the lower level.
Which is the crawl space level?
It's a crawl space level. And what we really want is to have a deck that we can come out of the living room to take advantage of the view. And have an entry tower closer to the driveway so we don't have to walk all the way here and come in. And that's basically it.
And there's something happening back there?
Yeah, this is a little bathroom push out.
On which level, the crawl space level or the living level?
At the main level. If
The
you're
main
standing here, this is 1 story because this is a hillside.
Okay.
Franceschi Park is up here. So this is the existing house where there's a garage, and yeah, you have to walk across the side to come up here, and then double back to kitchen and the dining. 2-bedroom.
Okay.
So this is what it looks like right now.
Okay. French doors, this is the crawl space.
This is a crawl space. I'm not sure if that door has permit or not, but we really haven't get into that. So this is a crawl space. This is a garage. So we're thinking about adding an entry tower over here, push out 10 feet from the face of this bedroom. And then
So are these stairs currently here?
This is existing.
And it goes up or down, in which direction are these stairs going? Is this...
Right now, this goes into the cross space.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, this is new.
Yeah. Now I'm proposing this will be part of addition, so they're all connected together.
Okay.
And then, so this is the deck. This is the entry tower. And we push out, we reconfigure a little bit so the bathroom are more usable.
Mm-hmm.
So as we maintain the existing roof, we added a little pitch to it. So this is what we're proposing, is to have the addition on the lower level, and the deck basically is the rooftop of this lower level, and open this up facing the ocean. And the entry tower, which is lower than what is there right now. And I cut a section through just to see the existing house ended here, so the living room we're going to push up a little bit. And this is the addition, and this is the deck.
Okay. Yeah, the floor plan, I want to check one thing also. Oh, so this is a foyer.
You know, that's a one story.
That's a slope up.
Yeah.
And this is high.
Yeah.
We'll make them brief and then we'll move on. Actually, it's a good presentation, and if you don't mind, I'm going to open up public comment. Is there anyone from the public? Seeing nobody, I will ask staff if there's any.
Yes, we do have one speaker.
I'm sorry.
form, and we also have a letter in opposition from Paula Westbury.
Good. Mr. Speaker, you may come up. I thought you were the owner, so this is... Name of the speaker is Craig Madison? Madsen. If you can come have a seat and speak into the microphone, I need your name and tell us your thoughts.
My name is Craig Madsen. I'm here for Craig and Sherry Madsen. Sherry's out of town on business, so I got the pleasure of coming down here and speaking with all of you. I had the good fortune of speaking with Mr. Ye beforehand. Actually, I should call him Ty because he happens to be coincidentally our architect also. It's an incestuous little community. But anyway, and he clarified a number of points that we had questions on, and so I think that my only comment that I would leave with is that when you go to final plans, I would differentiate between existing structure and proposed structure on the drawings, just so that it's easier to see what is new and what is existing.
Thank you.
So that would be the extent of our comments, and I think it will be an attractive addition to the neighborhood. And Jack and Karen Byers, as you know, are general contractors, and coincidentally, they just did the remodel on our house too. So anyway.
Well, thank you very much. And is there anybody else that would like to speak? Seeing nobody, and I apologize for that earlier. I will close public comment and return it back to the board for questions.
Mr. Chair, so this is from the garage. These are some steps up, and then there's a couple more steps up or down. Is this going down to this?
The existing house has nothing in here except cross space to get access to the furnace.
Yeah.
And when I pushed this out, I thought it would be nice if we can get access, borrow this space. This is new.
Yeah.
Keep this cross space furnace as is, but keep it this part of the addition we're doing.
So this is a doorway here now.
Correct.
So you come down. Are these up or down?
This is up because we have like 2 feet of slope. From
So you come down here and go through here and go back up, and you come into here like that.
I could have a
Archway underneath the
Correct.
steps.
I thought about that. Yeah. It won't be very high, but it will work that way as well. Since I have this door, Mr. Mahan, I thought I might make it work. So it's not much of a space to borrow, but it will work much better.
So if you come from the garage now, you can come this way and come and go on up.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand it now. Thank you.
Yes, Bernie.
Question, yeah, I don't quite understand it. What is the height of the existing crawl space, and what is the proposed use for it, if any, when you do the addition?
The existing cross space underneath is about. Let me take a look at my section. So the cross space is quite steep. So it's sloping. Yeah, you can. It's only furnace underneath right now.
It's just dirt, I bet.
Yeah, it's dirt. Yeah.
Okay.
Just one more question. So are you proposing stone here? This is going to be stone, and then this is a board and bat.
Right.
The existing house is.
The existing house facing ocean has bat and board,
Yeah.
but if you turn around, it's stucco. So I could use stucco or.
Are you not high fire in this area, or would you be using material that's not high fire to achieve the board and bat?
Yeah, this would probably be the hardy board. That, yeah, to look. It's more of a craftsman.
What's the roof material?
Right now, it is composition shingle.
And that you're going to stay with that?
We will stay with that.
Okay, I don't have any more questions.
If there's no other questions, let's jump to comments from the board.
I think I think that you should stay with the stucco, and don't do the board and bat. I mean it a little. It has the stone and the stucco work well together, and this is kind of a Monterey style of. I think the stucco would. I just don't see that. Having 3 different materials seems to me to be too much.
Too many. Okay.
And it's either you're going to go board and bat around the whole thing and do it that way, or you're going to go stucco. And it seems like, since it's mostly all stucco already,
Right.
and it's a kind of house that stucco would work well with it.
Sure.
If you don't mind me tagging on real fast, I don't personally mind the 3 different materials, but what I've noticed with T111 or Hardy backer board is when you go more than 10 feet, you have to have a Z-bar flashing, and that line always kills me. So when you can't make it all a continuous one piece of material, maybe you could make this work if it was less than 10. That would be more of the reason why I would not go with material that you're proposing, just because of that Z-bar flashing.
Yeah, but the stone and stucco certainly are nice.
Oh, wonderful. Very wonderful.
So would it be all right for me to suggest that we keep it simple by using stucco here and here and stone? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Comments from somebody else?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I want to compliment the architect. I think that the front elevation or the south elevation is a very handsome design, and I think quite a good improvement. The one element to pick it apart is the front door. maybe wants a little bit more enhancement, maybe a little bit more overhang, a little bit development to the front door. This area right in here just seems to be a hole in the plan. You just recess the door back, and that's really your only covering. So I would encourage the architect to look at that front entry a little bit more, but besides that, I think it's a very successful project.
Mr. Chair, can I?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Maybe recess, this kind of architecture could stand a nice recess in this, you know, that it could be
6 to 8 inches back.
Yeah, right. I don't know, where's the first floor plan?
It does have a recess, but it just feels like it's a little
It's not.
hallway there.
Oh, it does have a recess, so it just
But
doesn't.
there's no porch.
That's nice, yeah.
There's no overhang there.
Yeah, I agree. And the same, and I was going to say, the garage door needs to have the same quality that this architecture is headed toward. And this just looks like you know, something from
Home Depot.
a track. Yeah. Oh, it is. I see it is kind of a panel door. So this is board and bat up here right now.
Yeah.
And then you say it's stucco in back.
Yeah, I think I was mistaken. This corner is.
Yeah, that's this right here.
Yeah.
Well, you'll have to.
I can make it
play around.
stucco because we're gonna change out all these windows.
And what type of window were you proposing?
Pella.
Pella?
Clad,
Aluminum clad?
glaze. Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments from any other board members?
Well, yes, Mr. Chair. If there's a 800 square foot first floor addition and a 200 square foot second floor addition, and that adds up to 1,000 square feet, and the existing house is 1,800 square feet, so this is more than a 50% increase. So it would appear to me that you're going to have to bring it up to code, and this old board and bat isn't going to cut it anyway.
The high fire just not gonna cut it. Yeah. I like the idea of being stucco myself.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, I'm going to ask one question or go into one area. Is this an 8-foot plate in this family room area? If it was 9.6 to the floor?
Minus whatever structure, let's say 12 to 14, so it's going to be close to
8 foot.
8 to 8.4. Yeah.
This is just my own thought. When you draw this at a larger detail, it might be more beneficial to have a bit more mass between what's supporting the deck and the top of the windows. Because if this is a 6/8 and that's 8-ish or whatever, that maybe you dig this down a little bit more, which changes your sight walls, but you're getting a little bit more meat in that zone. And that's just a comment.
Okay.
And because preliminary.
Right now, this is 7 feet door. I can use 6/8.
You're a quality designer. I mean, I'm not. That was just something that I noticed visually is just a little bit on the pinch side, considering it was made out of stone, and perhaps it was even an eyebrow door where it's 7 foot at the top, but you taper the sides, because then maybe they could fake the stone into a slight arc.
Like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you can keep the 8-foot ceiling on the inside. But that's
Got it.
my only thought.
Point well taken.
Any other comments before we go to a
Mr.
motion?
Chair, had a couple of comments. Some was more on the entryway, just a few more comments. I'm looking at the profiles of them and the how the roof element works on the garage and how the roof element works on the entryway with the extra long eave doesn't really work that well for me. Some other things that I'm having a little problem with, or maybe I need some more clarification, is how the rock and the deck and the beams work. There looks to me like there either should be a little bit of cantilever or something that goes on. I don't know how this termination point works well.
You can actually say when you come back the next time, you'll have more details to work it all out.
And as far as the board and bat goes with the Hardy, I kind of like I'm with the camp of the 3 elements. I kind of like the board and bat element with it. It gives it a little bit more of a craftsman feel. So I think that the incorporation of the three elements is a good thing. I'm with Paul when you have that Z metal in the middle of it, it doesn't work. But just throwing the whole material out altogether because of that doesn't work for me either. So I do like the idea of using some of that board and bat, and I wouldn't throw that design element out altogether.
Mr. Chair, to follow up on that, it might be that some stone could
wainscoters.
Yeah, some stone could to integrate the stone around this at the lower level or something, and then maybe maybe you could. I don't know if you can get that hardy board in 10-foot lengths. I don't know how long that comes.
It's for him to decide.
If you want to stick with the board and bat. But I do believe that code is, because of it's more than a 50% increase, that the code is going to require that the old wooden board and bat's going to have to come off and be replaced. Something for you to research.
You're right.
And the overhangs are going to have to be fireproof.
I will dovetail on what Gary just mentioned, that there's a disparity between what's happening here and here. And I didn't notice it till I saw the photographs and what kind of this architectural element. And it wouldn't be that much effort to sort of correct this to blend with the rest of the architecture and make it homogeneous.
Yeah, get rid of this.
Yeah. Or add those kind of corbels.
Throughout the house.
Okay, we're getting punchy. We're 5 minutes over.
Okay.
So with that, does someone want to make a motion, or shall I float one?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
For continuance, indefinite continuance?
Or do you want to come back in 2 weeks? It's your choice. If there's staff room.
2 weeks would be great.
A 2 weeks continuance for the applicant to restudy the use of, if in fact it is going to be three materials, the stone, stucco, and board and bat, how are you going to detail that to avoid the horizontal joint?
Yes.
And to try to bring the front entrance roof and the corbels into more, relating it more to the garage, to the existing garage. Lowering this is the family room.
Correct.
And there's another bedroom here or something like that. Lowering that lower level down a little bit so that there is more stone mass above the doors, and studying using a segmented arch at those doors, so that it feels more like a stone construction. Is there anything else?
There was a comment about the entry and the design.
Yeah, that's what I was suggesting, that this needs to relate more to the corbel of the garage.
Okay.
They're close together in some way, and I think this long overhang that isn't appropriate. There ought to be some consistency in the overhang.
Yes.
Also, review the code in terms of replacing the existing board and bat, and also your other non-fireproof construction, because this is an old house.
Yes. Yeah, it's more than 50%.
So that'll take that's 2 weeks worth of work.
Yes.
So, with that, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Glenn seconded. Discussion? I'd like to add one other comment, if that's all right, is that the applicant add notation on the drawings, what is proposed and what is existing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, Mr. Chair, it's not our prerogative to get on the interior of the house, but the suggestion that the archway go under the stairs rather than have to go around through that little hallway and back into the family room, that's kind of a torture.
I hear you, yeah.
Thank you.
If there's no other discussion, I'd like to call for a vote. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And Glenn seconded it. Mr. Mahan made it. And with that, I will close the Single Family Design Board for January 4th. Adjourned. Have yourself a good evening. Bye-bye.